So, welcome to Pop Culture Addicts. Our guest today is Stephen Perkins. Now, you may know Stephen best for his time in bands such as Jane's Addiction, Porno for Pyros, but we also have him here today because I'm very interested in talking to him about his new project, which is called Halloween Jack. Now, we're very honored to have him with us here, so please won't you help us in welcoming Stephen Perkins.
Thank you for joining us, Stephen.
Hi. Hello, friends, new friends. So, Kathleen, nice to meet you. Where are you from?
We are both from Michigan. I'm actually north of the Saginaw area.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm just north of Grand Rapids.
You know, Jane's Addiction did our first show, I think in 87 or 88. And we have a song called Jane Says where we mentioned St. Andrews, which is a street in Los Angeles. But we were excited to share it back then with the audience. And they sang it with such gusto. I can still hear it. And this is like, 1988. But thanks for having me on the show. And so we found out there's a Halloween Jack in the UK. So we officially changed our name to The Halloween Jack. It's unbelievable. Now we own it. It's ours, The Halloween Jack. We went around a couple different ideas, and you don't want to know the ones we didn't get to. But the thing is with Halloween Jack, The Halloween Jack, is about 10 years ago in Los Angeles, the guitar player Gilby Clarke, bass player Daniel Schulman, and this great singer and guitar player, Eric Dover, we started playing, I think, about every other week in Los Angeles at a place called the Dragonfly. And we would just do an hour of covers from Sweet, Alice Cooper, Elton, Kiss. I mean, it had punk rock energy. We would do some Iggy, some Dolls, but of course it was, lacquered up with the glamorous side. And we added a lot of muscle to the versions that we do, and that's right. What it was fun about what we did. We didn't replicate the original. We took the original, made it ours. And when things kind of slowed down, I got on tour. I think Gilby left town. The bass player, it plays with Garbage. What happened at that point, we just put it to bed. But about 6 months ago, the guitar player from the New York Dolls passed away, Sylvain Sylvain.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm taking a shower and I'm washing my hair, not much of it. And I said, didn't we do a great version 10 years ago, a recorded version of Trash? And so I called Gilby. He said, yeah, actually, he's got it. So we did one of those wonderful pandemic Zoom videos where each band member was in their own studio, similar to this. And you pantomime or, lip sync to the track, and our friend Mark Armontano edited it together with some slices of the Dolls, and we put it out as just a kiss and a prayer to Sylvain and the whole family, and that sparked an interest in each other again. Let's do the Jack. Let's play Halloween Jack shows as soon as we're able, and that's kind of how we kind of stirred the pot. That was about 6 months ago. All right. So there you go. That's the beginning of it. That's the tip of the iceberg. If you need more, you can ask, of course.
Well, since we're already talking about it, I was going to ask you about this a little bit later off in the show, but let's go ahead and ask you this question now. So I'm always interested in backstories and where people get like the name of the bands from and all these things. So Halloween Jack, I'm assuming that's a David Bowie homage.
That's right.
All right, cool. I thought it was either that or Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack.
No, it was the David Bowie Diamond Dogs.
Yep.
And
74.
Also, I have another band name, and you guys can use it. No one likes it, but it's from a Bowie song called Changes. It took me years to figure out what he was saying, but the dead end street signs.
Mm-hmm.
He says that's one of the final words of the maybe the third line in the first verse or second verse. The dead end street signs. He takes a turn into a dead-end street sign. And I thought that'd be a great name for a band, the dead-end street signs. Everybody thinks it's a mouthful, but hey, so Halloween Jack to me is a band where you can embrace these songs that you grew up with. Love Is Like Oxygen, which I remember 1977. I was probably like 10 years old, but I can hear it coming through my dad's car. He had a Cordoba.
Okay.
And those songs bring back memories, which kind of enlightens that feeling of anything's possible, and rock and roll is made to have fun. And it also has it's got a message. The message is get away from your real job, Do what you want as an artist. Embrace it. That's why you were here. Someone else is here, possibly to, if their dream is to be an architect, I hope they get there. If their dream is to be a baseball player and actually get to the majors, I hope they get there. But at 8 years old, I found my drums. And my dream at 13, at my bar mitzvah, 1980, I played a drum solo in front of all my school friends and family. And I've been practicing alone for 3 years at that time on pillows and pads. But when I saw what happened between me and the reaction of family and friends and even strangers and cantors and rabbis, that kind of turned me into more of an instrument, a tool to make people happy, to make people move. It wasn't about, look what I can do from 10 years old to 13, I was getting better at bouncing a drumstick, learning Van Halen songs. And that is important because you get better and you improve and you have goals. But when I saw people react to my playing and bodies move, and then also growing up in Los Angeles, we have the Venice Beach Drum Circle every Sunday afternoon. And I was pretty shy. I wouldn't join them, but you would hear, and people moving on the beach. And I was like 10 years old going, that's cool. I don't know what's going on. Smells kind of interesting too over there. But and so there's this tribal magnet that's coming out of me, and drum circles and the recognition of rhythm in art, like MC Escher, who does the ducks, white and black, and recognizing shadows and the way the world plays with rhythm. All this goes into my drum, I guess, trying to pull this drum energy, like I say, a tool. Be aware of earth and sea and people and conversation, and then hit them and get them to relax and move. If it's 5 minutes, 5 hours, that's what I can do best on this earth. And when when you're in love, nothing else matters, but it's hot and cold.
Right.
When you're a dad, and my kid's 11, he needs me less and less. With an infant, he needed me all the time. Now he wants me to back off. So, so what am I? I am here as a dad, a husband, a friend. Yes. But the drums is what I think, in a sense, puts me into meditation, and also is this electrifying, like the Tesla coil, where he was brave enough to touch 2 coils in front of everybody and go, you don't die from it if they're alternating. And, he was born, Tesla had a fever for 3 days where he went blacked out. When he came to, he had 6 or 7 inventions in his head.
Right.
I don't know how it happened. Was he ahead of his time? Was he ahead of his time? Did something touch him? But sometimes when I'm playing, it's not what my hands and feet can do or what I think of. It's just letting go and letting those Tesla coils go through me, and then seeing people moving. And then that's the energy, like Tesla was showing, the lights are on. I can make people's light go on. And that's really, I think, my journey. I'm not there yet. I'm a student of it all, but I'm open to it. And just like you see, one of if Muhammad Ali inspires you, or if an astronaut inspires you. But when I think about drumming, I think about Einstein meeting Bruce Lee. Really, really think about what you're doing, right? Really think about it all. That MC Escher fitting the puzzle.
Yeah.
But then, like Bruce Lee, just concentrate, focus, and you walk into a room, it's quiet. When you start playing drums, it could be you're piercing the quietness. You're breaking. You're violently breaking the silence, and you're not a musician who gets to brush it like a strum or a chord. You have to make sense of this drum set. It could be quite violent, which is okay. It could be quite gentle and pillowy, and soft. But it's really affecting the air in the room and the feeling. And I practice a lot alone, but I get off with other people when they see and hear me. But I practice alone, so I'm good when I get in front of people.
Sure, makes sense.
So with your drum kit, I mean, your drum kit has to have evolved with you. I mean, that's just that's how musicians work.
Yeah.
So looking at some of the previous videos, your setup for Infectious Grooves in the video Punk It Up and Violent and Funky, compared to the kit that we see for the Halloween Jack. So do you ever look at your kit and think, oh no, that's not right? Or what if I change this? Or do you have it perfect now?
No, man, everything's a change. It's almost like going out to dinner. You eat 3 times a day, but what are you going to choose? So on a drum set, I think about who I'm playing with, what we're trying to achieve sonically, what kind of characters and flavors I can bring to it, and might not be the right bullseye on the target every time. I might have thought, you know what? Next time I play with these cats, I'm going to bring this. But growing up, I wanted to play jazz because my favorite drummers were jazz players. They were so interesting and musical. But no one in my neighborhood had a piano or an upright bass or a saxophone. Everybody had to plug in their amps. So I became I love jazz and swinging, but I had to add muscle and volume. So now you realize, okay, you're playing with a guy upright bass. You're going to change your cymbals. You need something quiet, something that doesn't take up too much real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put a big pillow in your bass drum so you don't have a subsonic sound in the room that's going to swallow up his upright bass when he's trying to be musical and your kick drum's all, pushing him out of the way. But you still want to play. You want to hold back with your performance. So you adjust the drum set accordingly so you can do your thing and not get in the way. It's all about real estate. It's about choices. And if you play a lot, you're taking a lot of real estate. That's okay. But then think about how to deliver the sound of your instruments. So all that, if it's very busy, fine. Make sure it fits in the mix. Because you think about a mix, the guy who mixes a record, he hears the vocals like straight ahead. He might hear cymbals up on the right top. He hears the bass line underneath his butt, or his belly while he's mixing, and the guitars are shooting left and right. And it's an experience. Now, not everybody's going to hear this great stereo experience when they hear the mix that you send them. But when you mix, it's about making the real estate have events and not taking it all too much at one time and putting it all in your face all at once. So it's a story. And drumming is really there's so many ways to go about it. That's why I love Motown. You're not really part of the story. You're just laying in a pocket so people can move. Mm-hmm. And then you love jazz because they don't care if you're moving or tapping your foot. They're conversing with each other.
Right.
And they hope you're listening to what they're saying. And, and I like punk rock drumming because it's so pure. And so it's not sterile, but they got everything out of the way they don't need. They edited it, there's no fat involved. It's all you need and nothing else. So I love taking, and then of course, African and Latin and East Indian rhythms and American Indian rhythms, and not trying to learn them correctly, just infusing it all like a new chef that's not going to try to do a traditional dish, but make something new, and it might not be the right thing for everyone's taste. And that's good. I don't want to be a drummer for everyone's taste, though it'd be nice to be. But, that's my advice to young musicians, old musicians, anybody, don't worry if people like you, even though it feels good, like I said earlier, for people to like and move. But it's not about my personality they like. Right. They hear my drumming and they start moving. I'm just kind of moving the air and stabbing silence.
But I think, like you said, it would be nice to be the drummer that everybody likes. But I think that's just the drum tracks and guitar band.
Well, the funny thing
those are the guitars that everybody likes.
I love that. Yeah, but I love when people don't understand what you're doing, and that means you're not for everybody. And the worst thing ever back in 1986 when Jane's Addiction was playing was getting good reviews from 40-year-old men. Because why do they like us? These people shouldn't like us. But they saw something and they heard something that was mature. And in my opinion, the songs are still timeless, and they were timeless. From the moment they were written, it could have been today, tomorrow, or yesterday, or 100 years ago. They sound relevant lyrically and musically and sonically. But I appreciate now that I'm 54 that a man at 40 or a young, 20-year-old can see what Jane's was doing back in 86 and agree upon it. Yeah. And, I think about Jane's Addiction fan back there. They could have had a Cure poster and a Metallica poster, and that would be a Jane's Addiction fan in 1986. Because we were not afraid to put black lipstick on, but play metal.
But yeah, so, thinking about that, I mean, I was in high school in the 90s. I'm a child of the 90s. I graduated from high school in 1995. And okay. Shut up, Kathleen. Nobody likes you. You were 3. She's a baby.
We have a lot to learn from her.
We do, actually. I now I admitted that on the camera. She's never going to let that go.
Nope.
But, the thing is that, so, growing up, I mean, I remember the first time I heard Jane's Addiction. My buddy was like, "Hey, did you hear this band?" And for him, I mean, we were, I want to say I was in my early teens. I was 13, maybe 14, the first time I heard Jane's Addiction. And, he was more impressed with the album covers because there was naked women on it. And he's like, I have this thing, anyway. Yeah.
There's something about what Warner Brothers, the record label, gave us was the opportunity to deliver that cover and our lyrics, and they let us do what we wanted. We had offers from Capitol and Geffen and a bunch of labels, but they were going to do something to us.
Right.
Warner Brothers said, do what you want. We want to show the world, because at the time, everything on the Sunset Strip was already signed up, packaged, and put out. And I was young enough to see, Motley and Rat and GNR, even because they were around at the same time we were, but a little bit older than me. Everything was being, in a similar category, but Jane's Addiction was an after hours late night thing. And that's what we wanted, to find a label that would let us do that on the art, mm-hmm. on the actual, on the presentation of the band. No one got in the way.
That's kind of cool, because back then it was all, from what I remember, that was the like pinnacle of, in the late 80s, the pinnacle of hair bands. And, for you guys to come out, you guys were, the complete opposite of what those guys were doing. And so you guys, not that you stuck out like a sore thumb, but you guys did stick out. There was a noticeable difference between what you guys were doing and what these other bands were doing. And so when he brought home Nothing Shocking, and he played that for me, and I was like, well, this is really cool. Because my brother grew up and he was listening to hair bands all the time. He was real big into like Rat and Poison and, Motley and all those guys, because those were the bands of the time, and
well, I'm 54. How old is your brother?
Let's see. He's 50, 51 somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. So that's exactly what was going on. And on the East Coast, I'm not sure what was saturating, but the Pixies came out at the same time Jane's did on the East Coast. And I think both of those bands, it's not similar in sound, but in idea of how to make your own art and not worry about what's happening around you.
Right.
Because it has to be from the heart, and you cannot be chasing something. And there was a lot of bands chasing something that another band made success on. And we didn't have that, and we weren't in my, no. Well,
that's one of the things I always loved about Jane's Addiction. One of the things I loved about the Pixies as well is that neither one of those bands was worried about trying to fit in this prepackaged, pre-formulaic thing. Yeah. You guys were willing to be yourselves. You guys were willing to present yourself as, hey, this is who we are. This is our music. This is what we're doing. And for me, that was a nice change of pace. It wasn't the same old. And I think that's kind of what set the tone for me musically going forward, for what I listened to and why I listened to certain things as I got older, and why I leaned into certain bands heavier, because they weren't they may have had other people copy them, but they weren't the ones going out and trying to follow the same yellow brick road that everybody else had already been going down.
And I love, Tommy Lee is one of my heroes, and I got to be in a band called Methods of Mayhem. So me and Tommy Lee did double drumming, and it was incredible. It was beautiful. But I think he was the top of the pyramid when it comes to that rock and roll drumming. But after Jane's Addiction, there were so many different types of drummers. There was Primus with Tim. There was the Pumpkins with Jimmy. The Pearl Jam had 3 or 4 different drummers. And, then you had, of course, I think his name was Dave Grohl from the Nirvana, and the guys that all worked together. And, the whole movement that was Matt Cameron. everything that was coming out of Seattle was just had gusto, and every drummer, and then the Danny Carey from Tool. I mean, there were so many great drummers, and it was like, everyone had their own flavor.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool time for musicians, and I think especially in the rhythm world. And, Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros. And of course, when Jane started, there was Fishbone Records and Chili Pepper Records, and we were doing gigs with them. And there was this sense that if you wanted to do it your own way, no one's going to stop you. Just don't be looking to chase somebody else's and ride, their glory and maybe jump on their wave. So I appreciate that we made that punch into your world. And then for what's going on in my life right now, I am starting a label called Perkins Palace. And I'm going to take all my experience and all the friends and associates I've made that we made great music and art together. And I'm going to go look for new artists, whatever age. I want to help them get out there. And I know it's a strange world right now. We don't know what that means, get out there. But if I can just get a little more, if I can shine a light on anybody and help them, and I'm going to try. So Perkins Palace, I'm thinking it's possibly maybe at the end of the year, but definitely at the beginning of the new year, you'll see our first release.
Awesome.
And it's really important for me to believe in it. I like rock and roll music. I like good players. I don't like, if I can't listen to it over and over and bite and keep chewing, I'm not going to enjoy helping them. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting now because, drumming, I could do it every night of my life forever, but it's hard to get, of course, COVID has just changed everything, but it's hard to get a band that all wants to do the same thing at the same time. Do you all want to tour every summer? Maybe. You see bands that do it, and it's pretty impressive because it's a real business to them. But
sure,
I'm enjoying like everybody, it was so derailing to have this terrible 18, 19, 20 months, and who knows what's ahead.
Right.
But you figure out what is important and maybe what isn't. You filter out the noise that, there has been so much of it. You get it out of there. And I think it's going to be a great creative time. And, if there's a lot of great novels and films and musicians and artists bursting because of what we've been through, I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Oh, exactly. I think everybody's been so penned up that you're starting to see those creative juices that they had to keep restrained for so long. They're starting to burst out right now, and things are starting to kind of break free again. And you're seeing, screenplays getting turned into movies. You're hearing about this left and right. You're hearing about new bands hitting the airwaves and all these different artists, coming through because now they're able to do something with it. So I think that's really cool. And actually, I subscribed to your YouTube channel today as I was watching Trash.
Okay, good. Well, and, you can see that the band has a good time playing these tunes, and you start to remember what a great band the New York Dolls was when you hear that song. Mm-hmm. Damn, that's a good song. And also with I guess the hope that Jack can get to work is it feels good to think about getting together with those guys, getting on stage and just making noise with our toys. And like everything else in this world, that hour on stage, it's happiness is a cloud, right? It just floats by.
Right.
And so I'm just looking for more clouds of happiness to get my life, I want to get cloudy with happiness because it's really important to add these great, moments where you're surrounded by people making music and people are happy. If that's what you do for a living and you don't get to do that a lot, you start to like shrink. Mm-hmm. That's actually, you really want to do that for people.
When you're supposed to be on stage, you're supposed to be on stage.
Sometimes I feel like a basketball player that just does free throws all day at the gym, but never gets to game. He's no game, man. Damn it.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned the band earlier, so I want to talk to you about them real quick. So back in 1996, when Porno for Pyros released Good God's Urge, I had just graduated from high school, and I love that album, by the way.
Thank you.
Tahitian Moon and Kimberly Austin get played on the regular at my house. That's kind of those are kind of in the regular rotation. Those make it into trip mixes for cars, and when I'm out on the road, Long Travel and all that stuff. So I was always a big fan of Porno for Pyros. I didn't see them as an extension of Jane's Addiction. I saw them as a different band because they were totally different vibes. Even though it had you on the drums and Perry, at the mic, that was the only thing that to me that was the same as Jane's. But I did read somewhere recently, and I'm hoping this is true, so maybe you can clarify this for me. I heard that there's a possibility that Porno for Pyros will be reforming and putting out a new album. Is that true?
Well, we just did 3 Jane shows last week, and that was incredible. And I got to see our friend Eileen. But me and Perry, of course, love the music. And me and Pete DiStefano, the guitar player, have another band called Hell Ride, which does Stooges covers with Mike Watt on bass. So me and Pete see each other quite often. But there's a lot of Porno, I guess you can say, unfinished business. So I would like to finish the business. We've got songs, we've got ideas, and I think it's time. And there's definitely that urgency. How this world is moving so quick. This year's already cooked.
Oh yeah.
And okay. Now the next year's around the corner, and I am a big fan of what's happening in the next 3 months in the spiritual world of having a 12-year-old. He's going to be 12 in December. Of course, there's Halloween and Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas, and his birthday's in December and New Year's. I like all those celebrations, and it gives me a chance to play music. But it's going to be exciting to start a new year and look at Jan 1 and say, January 1, what are we going to do? And I would love to get Porno on that list.
Awesome.
Let's get to work. And Jane's and the Jack and everything, because, I think I have time for it and the energy and the love to do it. And that's what you need. You need to love to do it.
I think that's probably the most important part right there is the love.
There's Porno tunes and there's friendships, and you put those together, there's a future, And I also think that Good God's Urge record, for me, the highlight, because of when we made it, was a song called Porpoisehead. It's the first song on the record, but the band Love and Rockets, that's basically Bauhaus without Peter Murphy. So you have David J on bass, Kevin Haskins on drums, and Danny Ash on guitar. They came up to the studio, and we made Porpoisehead together. So it's really Love and Rockets and Porno together on that track.
Oh, that's cool.
And that track to me is really the step forward sonically, because we were so give and take. We really listened to everyone. There's so much room for each other, but there's 6 people on the song. And also the memory of hanging out with the guys for 2 days, making a song with some of my heroes. So if you haven't checked out Porpoisehead in a while, take a listen. I like to trip out on it. I think it's one of the coolest ones.
Oh, I'll be listening to that as soon as we're done here today, just to kind of go back. Because so we have another podcast that Kathleen and I do together called the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. And one of the things I love about that show, because I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I love Star Wars and stuff like that. And so, we have people come on and it's stuff that I'm not exactly a fan of, or that, I didn't see in a certain way. People say, well, watch it from this perspective. And that adds so much to it, because now I'm able to see it or hear it from somebody else's perspective. And so I'm going to go do that now. Well, not right now, but now with Porpoisehead, and I'll go back, check that out and say, okay, well, this is what Stephen was saying earlier. I'm gonna go listen to it from that perspective. So
Pete DiStefano does the real pretty guitar picking. Danny Ash is doing the incredible sound effects. I'm playing drums and timpanis. Kevin, who is just an incredible, his ears as a drummer are so fine-tuned. He picked out all these electric sounds and played electric pads. And then we had David J on bass, which was this real sweeping, it's like a feather floating his bass line. And Perry's lyrics, superb. So that's Porpoisehead. And so Kathleen, what do you play an instrument, or what do you do besides hang out with this man?
So I play piano, but not frequently. I'm actually a vocalist. I was in choir from 3rd grade through my senior year. My mom actually plays in an adult wind band, so she's a percussionist in an adult wind band.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, my grandmother was a classically trained opera singer, so I've got a lot of music in me. It's just the majority of it is currently used for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and Row 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 Your Boat because I have a 3-year-old.
Well, that's important because you got to have chops to do that, and they want it done right. And
Oh, yeah.
and you got to do it. Now, I've been reading some, like when I read with my son, I try to take on these characters. He's like, Dad, just read it. I'm like, no, I want to be voices.
Well, you have to act it.
I can't read really without that, But so when you grew up, what did you listen to? Opera or what?
A little bit of everything. My dad was older. My dad was 47 when I was born.
Okay.
My older siblings are 12, 10, and 4 years older than me. So I was kind of an afterthought.
Well, I was 44 when my son was born.
I mean, my parents tried to tell me that I was the only one of them that was actually the only one of my siblings that was actually planned. But I think that was to try to make me feel better. But we listened to everything from Simon and Garfunkel. My dad loved Simon and Garfunkel and Beach Boys and Jimmy Buffett. But then with my brothers being older than me, they got me into Jane's Addiction and Bowling for Soup and 3 Days Grace.
Nice.
Yeah. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I had an older brother, and I went through his records and picked out what I liked, and then he would give me the stuff that he thought I missed out on, and he's like, "Oh, you missed this," and it really helped me find, I guess, how broad way to look at music. And he did have a taste of this and that and the other. But when I became a drummer, I got so hungry and I searched out the strange rhythms. And sometimes it wasn't even the music that I liked. I wanted to hear what the drummers were doing. And I had that fascination with hardcore metal. I love what's happening, the technique of the metal drummers. And when I was young, Iron Maiden and Slayer and some of the thrash metal bands were doing something, that was progressive in a sense, but still with a lot of punk rock energy. And then I fell out of it. And then all of a sudden Pantera showed up, 1991 or 92, whatever it was. And I got excited again about metal. And I think about the two brothers that are gone. They're not here anymore, Dimebag and Vinnie Paul.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that they're like shooting stars, and especially out of Texas. These guys were just wild, They were big barbecues backstage. They would just party all night. They were Texas, and their music was. And, you think about musicians that hit it and quit it, and the world just kind of, it's like a meteor, bam, and it's dented. There's a huge imprint. And then like the bands you mentioned, I love Simon and Garfunkel too. Those guys are still alive, and they could be playing gigs together. And it's a wonderful thing when you're there for a long time and you make this huge imprint over and over, or even a short time like these cats. And I was very fortunate. That's why I'm telling the story. 2-3 days ago when James played, Wolfgang Van Halen was there. And I got to hang with Wolfgang, and to think about how important music is and to everybody, and then to stick out and have a name that blows doors open for everything. Eddie Van Halen changed everything. And to have that happen is kind of like Tesla. How does it happen?
Right.
You have to be completely open to the experience. And it was great to meet Wolfgang because the DNA is there. He shares DNA with Eddie, and Eddie who knew where his, and you got to wonder, maybe Eddie had some Tesla DNA. So that's where I'm going. I'm going to find out.
He definitely has some DNA there. See, and when you mentioned jazz earlier, I got excited because my mom and I were in a jazz group together for 3 or 4 years. I was secondary vocalist, and then when the first vocalist left, I was the only vocalist. But my mom played drums. It was a lot of work, and I was so chorally trained that it was the wait. What? Yeah. I'm good. That's gone. That is out the window. Out. And that was the thing, is the friend of ours that plays upright bass for that. He's like, "You see the notes?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Ignore the notes." I'm like, but that's what the notes are there for.
He's like, it's the guideline, right? And then you can play around
all the rules when you go to jazz.
And the confidence there to pull it off too, because you have to have a good time with it, but you got to be quite serious. It's an art, and you don't want to, just throw, ink at the page and go and rip it up and throw it away. No, it's your voice, it's your reputation, it's you, and it's important because when I embrace a situation and I don't feel comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
how do I pull it off with confidence and
Right.
not hear hesitation, even the slightest hesitation? You know how, because that'll ruin everything. If you hesitate over and over the whole night, it doesn't. You're gonna hear it.
You
know?
miss one beat and
Yeah,
messes
it's
everything up.
over. Yeah, because it's like the butterfly effect. Everything else is so. I really appreciate when musicians in the jazz world have that confidence to play around with the notes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just being good at your instrument; it's having ideas.
Yeah.
And that's
and the confidence to say that this idea is going to work and then to go for it.
Exactly.
And
so
somehow,
I guess
if it falls to pieces, you keep going and you call it a jazz solo.
yeah, and the thing about classical musicians, they can jam, but of course their job, or even if they're working in an orchestra or symphony that's doing a soundtracks for a movie, their job is to be exact and to follow dictation and deliver from tempo. Little slight nudges in the tempo is up to the conductor, not you. A little volume nudge that you think should be soft, he's looking at you going, it's louder here. That's his opinion, but you're a tool for that. And you think about I will never know what Beethoven or Mozart's exact tempo was. They wrote moderate, or they whatever they wrote on the top of their piece. But a conductor now peaks. One conductor can do Beethoven's Fifth in 18 minutes. The other one does it in 19.
Right.
Or 1840. Like, where's the extra 40 seconds? Well, he slows things down or he speeds things up. It's up to him. And I really enjoy that you can do that with jazz. It's hard to do it with classical music, but the conductor can.
Right.
He can get jazzy with Beethoven. I was like, really? Yeah, he's jamming it.
So on that same sort of topic, drums are the foundation and bass is the heartbeat of every band. That's just how it works. But you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of very talented bassists over your career, from Eric Avery, Robert Trujillo, Mike Watt, Daniel Schulman. Yes, my husband did the research because he's a bass player and he's like, he worked with these people. But so do any of those stand out for you with somebody that you just clicked with instantly and you felt the groove between you and their bass playing?
Well, we don't want to forget Rob Osterman, who passed away.
True.
Upright, fretless. Tony Franklin, one of the great bass players who played with Jimmy Page in The Firm. I love playing with Tony. He fits me like a glove. We don't want to forget Mike Watt, Flea, Les Claypool. I mean, everyone is different. But Eric Avery, since I met him when I was 17, and he wrote songs almost like a melodic acoustic guitar player on his bass. That gave me a chance to embrace an original side of me that maybe another bass player I wouldn't. If I didn't meet someone like Eric at 17, who knows if I would embrace my original tribal, just follow my heart drumming, don't replicate anybody else behind me or in front of me, just do my thing. So Eric was probably the biggest influence on me by far. Playing with Tony Franklin now, he's on it. And it's like, oh, this feels okay. We're there. No problem. Playing with Flea, I did it about a year ago. I've done it a bunch. He was in Jane's Addiction in 1997. He is so fluid. And you can be the surfer on his wave, or he'll surf your wave. That's a cool give and take, wonderful give and take.
Yeah.
And Mike Watt from the Minutemen, he is a very melodic, beautiful bass player. He was on Good God's Urge, the song. He is so beautiful. And then on stage, he is a bull. He's just knocking stuff over and let's get to work. So there's two Mike Watts, and that's what I love playing with Mike. Everybody brings something to my bass drum. When I hear what they're doing on their bass, I have to think about, am I going to be or can I be playful? Do I need to be a little more assertive? Is he playful? Then I'll just lay it down. If he's not playful, then I can play. And so, I get these opportunities. It's like, cool, I'm on a bumpy road now. Oh, and now I'm in a sand dune, and now I'm, so you really kind of just listen to what they're giving you, and they listen to you. And I think that's the beautiful rhythm section. You work together like that puzzle, like the MC Escher.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Les Claypool was a long time ago, but we laid down something that was so linear that he made me play quite less, less of like Tarzan letting go of the rope and flying through the air recklessly.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about driving down the bullet train highway with him, So and it's cool to have opportunities to let them influence your playing, and then the next day think about what happened, and you go, that could be cool. I'm going to try that next time with another bass player.
Yeah.
Nice. So throughout the course of our conversation today, you've mentioned a lot of different, musicians' names and things like that. So it had me thinking the Halloween Jack being a super group, because you have people from, it really is. I mean, come on, you got people from Jane's Addiction, Guns N' Roses, Garbage, Jellyfish. Those are people from 4 different bands, and you're all coming together to do something awesome. But I also think of this kind of like fantasy football. If you could draft your own super group, so that you would have somebody that you would want to listen to, who would be in that group and why?
Well, my dream is to play with Peter Gabriel, and I think he's got such a way of painting a picture with his words, and
Gabriel's awesome.
Also, and also the delivery of the production it covers the whole globe. He's English, but you don't know where he's from or what year he's from. And if I could work with Brian Eno, and Brian now is a music producer and a music maker. He was the keyboardist for Roxy Music back in the 70s. But he made and of course produced great Bowie records, U2 records, his record, which changed my life, which was called Taking Tiger Mountain by Force or by Strategy. And if I can work with those two and let them just mold me, and I don't care if we have turntables, basses, guitars, keyboards, just let's make some music together, because I think that would just make me more aware of what I can and my strengths and my weaknesses. I would really just become quite aware of what can I do this with the guys that changed the soundscapes for the last 40, 50 years? What am I going to bring to the table? That's what I'm excited about, is what they can do to me. And, and then if it was a rock and roll band, I mean, there's so many great players that have guts and they tear. And I think that's exciting. For me, the best punk rock band, there's 2 of them. I think that the Bad Brains do it the best. And then the purification of the Fear record. If Bad Brains and Fear, if I can be in a band with any of those cats just for one song and see if I can rise to the occasion. And, I think the musicians of the new generation, I'm playing with a cat named Derek Day. He's 26. I call him the art bird, because anything you give him, he turns into art and he flies with it.
Nice.
And here's an example. We were in Warsaw for a 3-hour layover with the band Think Floyd or Think X. And everyone's like, let's go get something to drink. I'm going to have I'm going to read. I'm going to call my wife. Where'd Derek Day go? We couldn't find him. All of a sudden, this cat goes rolling by. He found a wheelchair, broke out his acoustic guitar, and starts doing flamenco Spanish songs and singing to the old Polish people in Warsaw. And even the TSA guys with the machine guns are like, yeah, he's pretty good, actually. I was like, this is the kind of guy that makes art out of like a 3-hour layover in Warsaw and entertained us all. And those are the kind of cats I want to find on this earth to turn me on, because that's how I feel. If you have time on earth, what are you going to do with it? And I was trying to explain, and my son gets it. Time is relative. you got a hot match at your finger for 10 seconds, it's going to take a long time. But if you're kissing your favorite person in the world on the lips for 10 seconds, it goes by quick. It's only 10 seconds either way. It's what you do with those 10 seconds. It's what you do with your 10 years and your 100 years. And so I'm trying to spend my time enjoying it. And yeah, when you're having fun, it goes by fast. Okay, cool. Let my life go by fast, but for many, many years, you know?
No, it's fantastic.
Oh, goodness. This has been so much fun to talk to you. Like,
cheers.
My brain is like reeling a little bit still.
It's been a blast.
So we can't just talk about the past. I mean, you've done a lot of really, really cool things with some really awesome bandmates. When you mentioned your production company,
yeah,
and potentially a Porno for Pyros revamp, what else you got coming?
Well, let's talk about it, because to me, I think the drum world is ready for something exciting. I don't know what it is. So I'm ready to embrace. I think it would be great to do find another drummer, and who knows what it means and what it sounds like, but really find a way to do two drummers and make something that sounds like one, and it's not too busy and it's powerful. Then add another musician or two. And one of my favorite keyboardists is Money Mark. Mm-hmm. And I would love to hand him a drum symphony, but there's still room. Like I said, there's real estate, so you can't take it up all.
Right.
But I would love to have this incredibly musical freight train of drums, and then add some interesting sounds and make that more of I guess in a sense, an experience for a listener, more than songs, more than, something you can, that's my favorite part right there. No, it's like a chant, it's tribal in source, mm-hmm. but also pulling from technology, so we don't miss out on all the opportunities that can deliver. I mean, I don't always think that a sub, an 808 is going to work in a rock band, but it does work for hip hop and R&B because mm-hmm. The real estate's available, right. So that's what I'm really want to be aware of, is make a marriage of two drummers where we're both aware of the real estate of electronic, the hybrid of electronic subs and tingly tops and acoustic natural drums, and then find someone and put a soundscape on that. That would be a creative way to look at the next year. And then with the Perkins Palace label, my goal is to get 3 artists a year. That'd be wonderful, because that'd be a lot of work, and I don't want to miss any opportunity to do it correctly, so I don't want to take on too much. Mm-hmm. But it's really a goal of mine to become more interested in turning the rock over and looking at things differently, and see if I can find something there that maybe I would have passed up, not a business opportunity, passed up on a spiritual sense. And I think now that I'm 54, what is not the second act, but what is shit? I'll go to 108. So what's the next 54? Let's go there.
Exactly. Exactly. What's the next chapter? Where are we going with this?
Yeah, I'm halfway home.
There you go, buddy.
So I only have one more question, and it just came to me just because I'm curious. What is your cymbal brand?
I'm a Zildjian endorser, and I've got many different types of cymbals back there and gongs. All the companies make great sounds, and it's about relationships. Mm-hmm. I have a great relationship with Zildjian. I love the people that own it, run it. I was very fortunate to meet some of the real Zildjian family members.
So
cats,
cool.
A lot of them passed on, but the Zildjian name lives there. And it's about not having any kind of buffer. I never had anybody call for me for my drums or cymbals or sticks. I called, hey, I'm a drummer. Here's my record. Mm-hmm. I love playing, and I don't want free stuff. I just want to play your stuff. And if something breaks, could I call you if I'm on tour and go, hey, I need another one? Because I don't want to buy somebody else's gear.
Right.
I'll buy it from you guys. And then you start a relationship and you become part of their family. And I think even the drum world, some of the cats move from company to company as a drummer, and that's okay because a lot of the companies have employees that move from company to company.
Right.
So
Sure.
it's like, it's a small pool and it's pretty shallow of people swimming in there and playing. But I've been very fortunate to make friends and keep friends in a sense that they want to hear their cymbals on record and on stage. I want to give it to them.
Mhm.
And it's a great friendship because we both want the same thing.
Yeah. I
Nice.
really feel like Zildjian sounds the best.
You like him the best.
I do like the sound of Zildjian the best.
Yeah.
I
You
can
know, like I say, everyone's making great gear,
Mhm.
but there is the sense that the formula that they use has been replicated by everybody, but they've got the old pizza ovens in Boston. Now they got it's kind of more of a high tech
Mhm.
layout, but they still have the old pizza ovens there so you can see them.
That's
And
so cool.
it's cool because they would just put a blob of metal in there, they'd melt it, and then they hammer it and polish it and figure out the weight and the thinness, etc. And they make great gear. And I played them on stage in Philly. And I was on a 4-foot riser, which is pretty high for me. It's usually a 2-foot riser. And my friend out front goes, "Man, those cymbals sounded great." And I said, "Yeah, well, I was actually up so high. My cymbals were probably about 8 feet up, and everybody could hear them like above, not only the way the PA was delivering them, but the way I think they were delivered to the room was just like not eye level. It was above your head." And it was cool to talk about cymbals. I'm happy you brought that up. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. As the daughter of a percussionist, it was the, what? No, I need to know.
That's a good question.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. We have enjoyed this so much.
Very much.
So
Thanks,
where
Aaron.
can
Thank you for
our
having me.
viewers and our listeners find more about you and what you've got coming out?
Well, let's see. If you want to see me and talk to me, it's going to be very hard. But you can go to the Stephen Perkins Drummer, my IG account, and Stephen Perkins for Twitter. I'm always posting about my favorite drummers and people that turn me on and why. And as far as what's coming up next, those are good places to find out. Jane's Addiction and Porno and my new label. Those will be a little bigger, more social explosion than my little personal stuff, I guess, in a sense. But I appreciate all the love you guys give. That was so ba-doom pa-pa.
I'm okay. I cannot think of a better way to end the show.
All right.
That may be one of the
awesome.
coolest things that's ever happened on our show. So thank you. That was very awesome.
Thank you so much. And
Have
we're
a
gonna
great
make sure
afternoon, guys.
We're going to make sure that we put your Instagram and your Twitter in the episode description so that our viewers can find you.
Thank you.
And I want to remind everybody, too, that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us continue to grow, continue to get amazing guests, just like Stephen Perkins here today, to have these awesome conversations with, to learn so much about what he's done, what he's doing, where he's going for the next 54 years. So please subscribe. It means the absolute most to us, and it helps more than you're ever going to know. And just remember, kids, pop culture, it's all around you. It influences everything you do and in every part of your life. So be sure to come back next week. We're going to have your fix waiting right here for you.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
It was a pleasure, guys. It went well.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.